Sometimes as software leaders, we feel isolated and alone. We're running a company and we're giving these directions. We have these teams, but we don't really always have somebody we can go to share some of our struggles and to ask advice. And so having that community, having that group of peers can be fantastic. And Alex Theuma, he knows that. He's the leader of SaaStock. And SaaStock has a community where leaders can go and do that. And they can go to their conferences, they can go to their podcasts, they can make sure that they're learning from other software leaders what they've encountered, what's worked for them, what hasn't worked for them. In my group, I've seen that be very powerful. And so I definitely recommend it. If you're a software leader, you're feeling alone, you need to have that community. And Alex explains how you can find that community and how you can get involved with SaaStock, where you can meet other software founders there. Enjoy this episode.
Welcome to Scale Your SaaS, the podcast that gives you proven techniques and formulas for boosting your revenue and achieving your dream exit. Brought to you by a guy who's done just that multiple times. Here's your host, Matt Wolach.
Hello and welcome to Scale Your SaaS. Really excited to have you here. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for listening. If you're on the podcast network, thank you for watching. If you're on YouTube, if you are new to the show, subscribe right now. Hit that subscribe button. That way you will not miss any of the amazing people we are bringing to you. We are here to help you do exactly what the show says, scale your SaaS. We're going to teach you how to generate more leads, how to grow your business, and make sure you achieve your dreams. And someone who's done that and going to help us with that today, I have Alex Theuma with me. Alex, how you doing?
I'm good. Good to be here, Matt. I'm in the UK. Obviously, you're in Arizona, but right now we're in Riverside, where we both host our respective podcasts, and so it feels like we're at home.
I love the magic of today's world, how we get to basically be across the world from each other and have a conversation in real time. It's pretty cool.
100%.
Let me make sure everybody knows who you are. So Alex, he's the founder at SaaStock. You've probably heard of it, but Alex built SaaStock with one goal, and that's to help SaaS startups and the founders leading them succeed. His experience with the world's top SaaS founders has given him unique insights into determining the most crucial part of any SaaS startup, defining and achieving product market fit. SaaStock helps SaaS founders and their teams scale faster through the most actionable SaaS conference and membership on the planet. He is doing some amazing things, and I'm so glad to have him on the show. Alex, thanks for coming.
Yeah, no, great to be here. Really appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. So tell me, what's been up with you lately and what's coming up in the future?
Oh, lately, I've been swamped, but as is always the way, as we're coming up to one of our big events, in fact, our flagship event, which is around the corner, 3 weeks away, SaaStock Dublin 2023. Each year, for some reason, we have the great idea that we want to grow the conference, make it bigger. And with that, comes a little bit extra pressure and more work. This year, we're aiming for 6,000 attendees from more than 60 different countries to come, around about sort of 450 investors. And yeah, we're kind of in that, obviously the final 3 weeks where there's just, it's all coming together, but there's still like lots to do. And in the events industry, it is notorious for being sort of like quite last minute, late minute, people often buy their tickets really in that last month. So the kind of the uptick, the big spike of tickets, is really starting to kind of roll in. So we're just doing everything we can to, get to where we need to be and deliver the best SaaStock that we can. So, all hands to the pump at the moment on that, as is always the case. So dominating a lot of my time. I would say that's the main thing right now.
I love it. I can tell it's going to be very hectic leading up to it, but you guys are pros. You've done this before. So if you're like somebody in our audience who are SaaS founders and SaaS leaders, like what would they get out of a conference like this?
Yeah, good question. So I think if you are a SaaS founder, like with a real business, and I would imagine most of your audience is that, when I say real business, you've got customers, you've got revenue. That's probably means that SaaStock can help you in some ways. So generally the attendees, and I shared some stats on this today. I don't know if I'm smart enough to remember them, but I shared them on LinkedIn. But pretty much everybody that's attending, has revenue, and the percentages where I think the top percentiles were between 1 million to 5 million in revenue. and then I think 5 to 10 million in revenue, and then it was 500K to 1 million in revenue, and then 10 to 20 million in revenue. So that's the type of SaaS founders that we're getting at SaaStock, that are coming there to learn to grow and scale their businesses. Effectively, it's a gathering, getting together of peers, of like-minded people. I would say the main magic is like we've chosen a city, we've chosen various venues, right? And we've chosen a date and a type of person that we want there, which is the SaaS founder, the B2B SaaS founder. And then they come, but it's not easy. It's not like we build it and they come. But when you get there, the magic just happens, right? It's not necessarily like, everything that we've put on and all the content and so on. I think by just getting the right people in the room or in the rooms, as it would be, that's where the magic kind of happens. But not to downplay it, we do like a hell of a lot to try and make it, the best conference and the best experience for all of our attendees. So there's a ton of networking, which is facilitated throughout, because not everybody's a natural networker. So through the event app, through all the workshops, through the pub crawls that we run, the opening parties, the round tables, the dedicated networking sessions that we do, the investor matchmaking, there is a lot, that we put into it. So, when I'm not necessarily underplaying it when I say the magic just happens when we just get people together, because I really do, sincerely believe that. But then we try and, add our kind of bit to it to really make sure that everybody gets huge ROI. So really, if you're a founder that's feeling alone, like often I hear that from my podcasts, right? Where, I've done about 400 podcasts now. Whenever I ask, like, what's the hardest thing about being a founder or a CEO? And I think the most common answer is, it can be quite lonely at the top. You might have co-founders, but still, certainly in that CEO role, having to make a lot of decisions that that can be quite challenging. So SaaStock is an opportunity to meet people like yourself across those various sort of revenue stages from across the world that are probably going through the same things or have done the same things as you. So that's a big sort of advantage. So you'll hopefully meet I'm certain you'll meet a bunch of founders that become your new SaaS sort of BFFs and support you and block you in some of those decisions. But also, like, if you're on the venture path, we're really well known for being at the intersection of venture capital and SaaS and SaaS founders. I think last year at SaaStock, it was about something like 12 or 13,000 meetings happened at the event, which were predominantly investors and founders. We're forecasting 20,000 meetings for the upcoming SaaStock event. So I'm speaking with the founders that attended last year. Many of them were doing about 20 meetings, over the 2 days. So that's a lot of back-to-back sort of meetings and efficient. So what I would say is that you probably, within the space of 2 or 3 days, get enough meetings as you would in probably half a year of trying to meet with investors. So that's another real kind of opportunity there for you. And then I would say, there's a whole list of things, but to kind of wrap it up, I think often right now you're in Arizona at home, I'm in Ramsgate at home, right? And SaaS founders are often working remotely, or sometimes obviously in the office as well. But to get away from the desk, to get out of the office, to maybe, get away from the team a little bit, and to put yourself in an environment which is full of those that are a little bit, a few steps ahead, but also those that are, the same entrepreneurial spirit as you, in new surroundings, can give you that little bit of inspiration, boost, give you a bit of like headspace really to come away and just come back and sort of like, okay, look, what I've learned in the last few days has really kind of like move, dial moving stuff, right? Rather than just kind of like sitting in the motions and like, how many tasks do I have to do at the desk today? Like, get out there, learn some stuff, get inspired, give your head some space, right? And I think that can be, really dial moving stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love it. It sounds so energizing. By the way, you had me at Dublin pub crawl. So this thing sounds amazing.
Yeah, in Dublin, do you know what? We have most people at Dublin, right? And I have to say, like, we're lucky. SaaStock has always been in Dublin, in Europe anyway. So we now have SaaStock USA in Austin, which we launched earlier this year, another great city. But with Dublin, we just found that people love coming to Ireland and love coming to Dublin. It's a great city, really friendly people, amazing pubs, great Guinness. Like it's sometimes the weather's a little bit grey in October, but people get through that. And it's small. Like as a city, it's small enough that you walk across the city. Like I can walk from the conference venue into the main center of town in 20 minutes, and during those 20 minutes, I will bump into loads of people that are, have been at SaaStock, right? And you just bump into them serendipitously the whole time. And in bigger cities like London, that doesn't happen.
No, for sure. No, it's a beautiful city. I've been there. It's a lot of fun. I've had fun there. And the event sounds incredible. And I totally resonate with what you're talking about how if you're a founder, you kind of feel alone, right? You're running your team and you kind of delegate to your team, but then for your own decisions, it becomes difficult. And, as you know, I run a SaaS founder mastermind. And with that group, a lot of them say the exact same thing, Alex. They say that they love having that group because they feel alone. And to be able to bounce ideas and have peers is something that's very powerful. So getting that at an event like this is something that can make a big impact on yourself and your company. It's amazing.
Yeah, 100%. And I kind of fell into SaaStock a little bit in that, I was in sales for ages, 11 years, always had entrepreneurial things that I wanted to do. And then I kind of pushed myself outside my comfort zone, trying different things. And then I came across the idea to create a community-driven blog for, SaaS founders to help them grow their business. So like some limitations there were, I wasn't really a writer. I'd never been a SaaS founder. Who am I then, therefore, to be the authority to tell you how to grow your SaaS business? But recognizing those weaknesses, I reached out to, those that were the experts and asked them to contribute to this community, driven blog. And they kind of bought into the why, which was great, which then, the blog then became podcasts, then became local meetups, then became the conference, right? But what I found, like with that, then, at the beginning, I never thought and never expected to get this sort of feeling that after the first SaaStock, or actually when it was running, the first SaaStock was 700 founders from 34 countries. And the first event, we got 40 founders. It was like a pre-event. 40 founders from almost 35 different countries or cities were in one room. And they just started talking to each other. They just started sharing as if they knew each other, for years and years. And have you got this problem? Have you done this, etc. And it was quite a magical moment, I think, for me, a realization that I hadn't expected. That just, again, by bringing people together that were like-minded, the rest would happen. And people really wanted that. They really need that. And I was the facilitator of that. So, moving fast forward to, I guess 3 weeks time, we're now doing that at a much bigger scale. And it's become a really rewarding job that, getting out of bed every day is not a hard thing, knowing that we're really changing people's lives with SaaStock.
We'll be right back. Scale Your SaaS is supported by ToroWave. Lots of software leaders I talk to are looking to scale their SaaS. And I keep hearing over and over about one major struggle: getting ghosted by buyers after the demo. How frustrating is it when you have a great demo, you're feeling good, they like it, it seems like a done deal, and then crickets, nothing. You reach out, they're not responding to you at all. And when these software companies, they ask me to dive in, I notice that these sellers are following up the wrong way, or actually I should say with the wrong medium. What they're doing is they're hammering emails over and over again. I got a news flash for you. Email effectiveness is dwindling down and down every year. So why beat your head against the wall losing all kinds of business? Start texting, mix in texts along with emails and calls, and watch your conversion rates go up. In fact, conversion rates go up by about 50% when you use texting as part of the follow-up. People are used to it. And did you know the response rate on texts is 98%? 98%. So why throw emails into a a black hole knowing that they're never going to get returned. Text buyers and get results, but don't use your own phone. All kinds of security and compliance issues if you do. Also, none of that data is with your company. That's not good. Instead, use this system, ToroWave. ToroWave is designed for sales. It makes texting with buyers super simple and fast, and it helps drive more deals. Deals that you've been losing until now. For being a listener, you get 50% off your first month of using ToroWave. 50% off. Just go to torowave.com/scale. That's TOROWAVE.com/scale. Get signed up and start winning more deals like Tracy, who closed $170,000 in 3 days after starting. Again, go to torowave.com/scale. Catch up and win by texting with ToroWave. And we're back. That's so cool. Good for you. That's just amazing. I love that kind of energy that happens. And I think there's so much that people can gain from something like this, an experience like this. I want to ask you, what do you feel in these conversations you're having with these software leaders? What are some of the common challenges that they're facing, and how are they best addressing them?
Yeah, good questions. I think one of them that we've sort of like touched on, and is one I'm interviewing a founder next week, and we did a prep call, and I'm interviewing him at SaaStock local event, which is like our meetup events, and in Amsterdam. And he said, like, it's following on from the points that we've already discussed, that he's a bootstrap founder, and he spent like too many years not connecting with his other founders, right? Not doing any networking, just sitting at home, right? And I think there are so many cases of that. And that's like, when I asked him, that's one of his biggest regrets, like not starting to build your network kind of earlier, your network of your peers. I do see that a lot. And I think I don't have the data, but it's more common in bootstrap founders that they'll likely not be, as out there as the venture-backed founders as well. I don't know if that's 100% factual, but I would agree with that. Yeah, it's a feeling I get. So I think that's one thing. I think then obviously, like at the early stage, right? Probably the number one reason that founders are struggling is that they built something really that people don't want, or they haven't asked their customers. They're not speaking to their customers enough, right? I think even myself, like I've done this in the past, where if you're an entrepreneur, you've got a million ideas, and you come up with these ideas, and you think this is a great idea, but like, who's told you it's a great idea, right? It's like, you've got to go out and speak to customers, solve a problem. I think I know there's a lot of stories there about entrepreneurs that. The founding story as well. We had this problem ourselves, so then we created the product, for that. And I think that's perfectly fine. But I think in most cases, people create products that nobody wants and spend a lot of time on them, and then obviously there isn't the success there because there isn't that need, and demand for that. It's just so common a problem, and I think enough people speak about it. That, hey, speak to your customers, find your ideal customer profile. I mean, it's like, there's so much content out there about it, but still, I really do see that as like a challenge, certainly at the early stage. And we know that more than 90% of businesses fail, and more than 90% of SaaS startups fail. And this has got to be, obviously one of the key reasons, right? Because they're building something that people don't want. So I think that's one thing. I think now, like, that's always topical, but I would say obviously this year, getting funding is just that little bit harder. Invest, obviously, with what's happened in the market, after the crazy times in COVID 2020, 2021, where you're getting these 100x valuations, and that there was so much cash, and investors were throwing money into SaaS startups because they were sitting on so much money, and it was the crazy times. And I don't know how long they thought those crazy times were going to go on, but they stopped, right? And they came to a halt, and people realized that it was all a little bit too much. But now that's meant is that, you're building a SaaS startup now, whether even sort of like early stage and certainly at growth stage, a lot of investors are sitting on the money. And being much more cautious. You've got to have amazing metrics really for an investor to cut you a check. Again, certainly more at the growth stage side of things. But But that's difficult because now we're seeing like a lot of layoffs because, again, more at that sort of growth stage where people have overhired. You know, a lot of good talent is then going back into the market. And yeah, it's just being a challenge. So I think, you know, we'll see a lot of SaaS companies that are going to become, you know, zombie SaaS companies. They're going to, you know, fade away. And yeah, unfortunately, that's going to be tough. And, you know, for those early stage startups that are coming in, you know, pre-seed, seed stage sort of right now, yeah, it's not the good times. And I think we've probably got another few months of this, but I do feel like, you know, there is some like green shoots in the horizon for 2024. Great to see, I think this week, you know, the first SaaS IPO for a couple of years in Klaviyo, right? So that's a good sign. And I think that'll get people excited and optimistic that more will come.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it kind of all boils down to, I'm kind of a free market capitalist. I like the fact that it's getting people to realize, hey, we can't just do all this outlandish spending. We can't just go nuts on this just because we're a tech company. We feel like that's what we're supposed to do. Let's hire right. Let's spend in the right areas. Let's make sure we're focusing on doing the right thing of building our business, growing, scaling, and doing it in the smart way, generating all kinds of fantastic leads by talking to the right customers, understanding what they want, building the right product, and getting the best customers on board who are going to stick around for a long time. That's what SaaS is all about, keeping amazing customers happy for a long time and serving their needs. So I think it might be a correction getting us into that right place. Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. We're going to see better companies come out of it, and the not so good companies that, you know, didn't have this right, you know, unfortunately, they're the ones going to fade away, and some people will clearly be impacted, you know, by that, right? Because they've joined these companies, and I think obviously that's unfortunate. But I'm sure people will find their feet and, you know, either start their own businesses or go somewhere else. But definitely, it's a correction and a correction that was needed.
I agree. So SaaStock has grown into a really strong global community. What were some of the strategies that you employed in order to foster such a broad network?
Yeah, it's a good question. You know what? I think at its heart, right, we came out of content marketing, and you know, it was a blog and a podcast, you know, first, right? And you know, building the community, you know, off the back of that. But obviously, the content was being read and being listened to, you know, across the world. And you know, I think similar. I'm sure you look at your podcast stats and where people are listening in from. I mean, like with SaaS, I'm in the UK. 50% of our podcast listenership is in the US, right? Then we're very popular in India, you know, in the UK and you know some other regions, and so there is a long tail of countries. But I guess, you know, SaaS is truly global. The content is pretty much applicable. You know, interviewing the founders effectively is what I do. You know, founders, investors, those that are relevant. It's applicable like wherever you are, wherever you're building your company from. So there's no barriers to that content, and therefore this kind of global audience has grown from there. But obviously, we're physically located, you know, in Europe, in the UK and Ireland. The first conference we decided that would be in Ireland, you know, and it's still there to date, and that's our European event. And I guess the European audience, but actually and beyond, you know, come to that event. So it's very global, but I would say it's a leaning of like, you know, 80% Europe, 20% rest of the world. In fact, we get a lot of folks from the US over, again, probably by virtue of the fact that the content marketing, you know, is reaching them, you know, kind of in high numbers as well in the US. And then we've had our SaaStock local meetups, which is kind of like our grassroots sort of community events that we run and looking to kind of run at scale. So like before COVID, we were running 30 meetups per quarter in 30 different cities across the world. Wow. And we were looking to scale that up. Now, COVID kind of killed that, you know, for 2 years. And now we're sort of rebuilding that. So I think we're back up to about 17 cities across the world. We're launching in Austin soon to have like regular quarterly meetups. More US cities will come. We've obviously predominantly, most of them are in Europe. And that's also kind of helped us engage with the local communities and, and keep that kind of global, I guess, kind of footprint. So I would say that combination, the content marketing and then the community stuff, helps us reach a global audience and then engage with that global audience. And then when we have the conferences, then we obviously can market into that global audience, right? So I would say it's as simple as that, in terms of the strategy. There's probably more and better stuff that we can do, but that's the essence of it.
Very cool. Yeah, I love the global nature of SaaS, and that everybody around the world is trying to solve the same things, trying to do the same tasks and accomplish the same mission of growing their company and creating great things for great people. So I love that you guys are doing that. As we wrap up here, Alex, what would you give as a tip to software founders who are kind of just starting out, want to grow quickly, want to be a part of this global community?
Yeah, good question. Well, I mean, I know everybody kind of wants to grow quickly, but I think sometimes perhaps have a little patience and it's okay to grow a little slower in the beginning to kind of really find I think the right customers for the business, and I think to focus on getting the right people, doubling down on who these right people are, not just selling to everyone. Because I see a lot of SaaS companies that'll go out there sell to everybody. And perhaps they'll have more revenue, faster growth than another company that's really just focusing on trying to find that kind of one persona, right? But ultimately, that company that if they've nailed that one persona, will largely probably overtake and have better odds of overtaking the company that came out off the blocks firing and selling to everybody. So I think that's probably one bit of advice. I think also, just kind of just getting out there, finding, like-minded people, fellow founders, building out that network early. Like I mentioned, that founder that had that kind of regret. I would say, it's never too early to kind of get out there, start building out your network as a SaaS founder. So, obviously I'm in the business of connecting SaaS founders, right? But we do it because it's valuable, because we do it because SaaS founders, told us that they wanted it, right? And it's helped. It's helped so many, over the years.
Yeah, it definitely has. You guys are doing awesome stuff. Super great what you're making founders understand and helping them realize basically how to run their companies and connect with the right people around the world. I think it's all great stuff. So I want to make sure people understand how they can get involved or how they can participate or even come to an event. So what is the best way for our audience to learn more about SaaStock?
I think mainly go to SaaStock.com. There in the menu, you'll see our events and you'll see SaaStock Dublin, and you can find out more about that. And if Europe, I mean, depending on where the listeners are tuning in from, if Europe is too far and SaaStock 2023 in Dublin is a little bit too close, it's the 16th to the 18th of October. Next year we're going to be in Austin in the middle of May at a great venue called the Palmer. So that might be a little bit closer for the folks in the US. And then obviously we'll be back in Dublin again. Go to SaaStock.com, or find me on LinkedIn at Alex Theuma. I'll always happily respond as well. And, mention if you listen to us on this podcast. I'll happily help.
Very cool. And we'll put all that into the show notes for everybody listening. You can go check that out. But Alex, this has been fantastic. Thanks for coming on the show.
No, thanks for having me, Matt. Thank you.
Absolutely. And everybody out there, thank you for being here as well. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the show. That way you're going to not miss out on any other amazing guests and innovators like Alex who are coming in to give all their best tips for you. So thank you very much for coming, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Scale Your SaaS. For more help on finding great leads and closing more deals, go to mattwolach.com.